you talk to any of the Republican holdouts, Mr. President? Have you talked to any of the Republican holdouts?
ये mattress नहीं. Get the Sleep Company mattress. India's only patented smart grid technology with 2,500 plus air channels that keeps you cool. The softness that relaxes pressure points and firmness that supports your back. Log on to the sleepcompany.in.
Have you talked to any of the Republican holdouts, Mr. President? Have you talked to any of the Republican holdouts? Have you talked to any of the Republican holdouts, Mr. President? Have you talked to any of the Republican holdouts? Mr. President, have you talked to any of the Republican holdouts, Mr. President? Have you talked to any of the Republican holdouts?
Want to start a business? Start with an address. Choose from a vast range of domain names and fresh new domain extensions to help make your business stand out from the crowd. Give your online business the best start with the right address from GoDaddy. Start for free at godaddy.com.
With Google Workspace, Calendar lets you share your latest availability, so customers can book time on your calendar without any back and forth. That's appointment scheduling made easy with Google Workspace.
Today, we bring you a captivating conversation with Palki Sharma, managing editor of Network 18 Media and a veteran journalist known for her incisive reporting. At the India Global Forum 2023, Palki discusses her career journey, the importance of financial independence for women, and how on-the-ground reporting shapes her perspective on global events. Discover her insights on leadership, empowerment, and the passion that drives her unique storytelling style.
Well, our next guest, ladies and gentlemen, is a well-known, award-winning journalist and was previously managing editor of WION News Channel and hosted India's only international primetime news show, Gravitas. Our next guest loves a good debate and has interviewed a huge range of political and well-known global industry figures throughout her time. She is now the managing editor of Network 18 Media and has her own show, Vantage, with Palki Sharma, to share the challenges and triumphs that have shaped her career, as well as the passion and the purpose of her storytelling. I'm now delighted to welcome on stage, please give a very warm welcome to Palki Sharma, managing editor of Network 18 Media. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us. This is very exciting you're here. Yes, please do take a seat. How does it feel to be in the other seat, answering the questions this time?
Well, I will be more sympathetic to my guests.
Let's
just say that.
Brilliant. Right. I wanted to start off with a tweet that I read online from you. And it says, "I hope I live to see the time where the world doesn't need a Women's Day to recognize the place of women in society, and that empowerment doesn't come from marketing drives, fancy quotes, and cupcakes. Can you elaborate? I agree, by the way, but please do elaborate for us.
I will. Let me also first start by thanking Manoj and IGF for having me here and for us to be able to have a conversation like this. And I totally sort of stand by what I wrote, that cupcakes will not bring empowerment.
Definitely.
For empowerment, you need to be acknowledged for what you bring to the table, which women often don't. You need freedom of choice and freedom to express your opinion. You need financial independence. You need to be in control of your life. And I think being rewarded and being appreciated for what you contribute to this world, not just in terms of words, but I think in our world increasingly financially as well, is very, very important.
And that's something we're going to touch on a bit later on, because I know financial independence for you is a big passion sort of topic. As a very successful woman in journalism, sort of what challenges have you had along the way as a woman in journalism? Has it been quite an easy road for you?
I think the challenges for women are near universal, and they are industry agnostic. For journalists, the time that we spend doing our work the hours are longer. It's more demanding physically and mentally, and you find yourself in situations which are not always friendly. So yes, it can seem more daunting from the outside, but I think any woman who manages both home and work feels those pressures. Having said that, in newsrooms still are a man's world. I know there are a lot of women presenters, but the people who are making the calls are more men than women. And I think I was lucky to have had some good mentors and bosses along the way. But I wouldn't say that it's easy for anyone, for people in my team. And whatever I learned in my 2 odd decades, I make sure that the challenges I face are not the same ones that my team faces. I'm sure they have their own set of things to worry about. But I think what we need is more women leaders to be able to appreciate what women in the workforce anywhere go through.
And so, I mean, you've become, managing editor. You're managing editor of 2 networks now. So how has that sort of journey been as a woman? Have you had to fight your way to the top, or has it been quite a nice, supportive atmosphere in both networks?
Hello. Communicate in English easily. Use Grammarly and feel confident with effective communication. Grammarly's instant corrections make your writing high quality and mistake-free, so you can focus on saying what you mean. Grammarly ensures you communicate clearly with fluency suggestions tailored specifically for you. See why 98% of multilingual speakers using Grammarly report that it helps them write in English fluently. You can also accelerate your productivity by using Grammarly to quickly compose and reply in your own voice. English writing made easy. Download for free at Grammarly.com.
Data science and analytics are not the trends of the future. They're happening right now. So having the skills to work with data is not only valuable, it is essential now as data becomes increasingly important for industries around the world. To help you get these essentials in place, Scalar is conducting a free class for professionals from any background who wish to learn data science and analytics. Whether you're looking to switch to a data-focused career or you just want to learn more about this growing field, this live class is perfect for you. Click on the link below to register.
This is not so much about the networks, it's about the industry that we operate in, I think. And this was famously said by someone else. I love to borrow the quote that women are judged on their performance and men are judged on their potential. So you always have to prove both to your bosses and to your teams that you're deserving of the seat that you have. And it's that much harder for any woman leader anywhere. So no, it's not easy. And sometimes you have to go against your basic nature and push for your case. Because I think a lot of women still believe that someone somewhere will recognize how talented they are and reward them. And it doesn't happen. And over the past few years, when I became a manager, when I started hiring people, I saw that, and I'm not saying it's a bad quality, but men were very forthright in asking for what they think they deserved and negotiating better for their salaries and for their designations. Women were more, they did not want to upset anyone. And I think that's how a lot of girls are raised. We need to change that, and we need to tell them that it's okay to ask for what you think.
I've heard that in so many industries, not necessarily just media, but yeah, we're always, we don't want to offend anyone. We're peacekeepers, and we never strive because it looks like we're being arrogant if we want something else,
Yeah.
But in actual fact, if you're doing exactly the same job, why shouldn't you? Exactly, if you have the same skill set. Let's go back to your journalism. What drives the passion and purpose in your storytelling? How did you get into the field of journalism?
I always say the journalism chose me. I was studying to do something else. I wanted to be a designer, but I somehow found myself writing for a local newspaper, and one thing led to the other. And then I was in a bigger newsroom. It was quite fascinating. So I stayed and did what I was doing. But I think I chose journalism after I took a break. And I did, because I don't know how much of Indian news or television news you guys have consumed, but it became a very, very crowded place. And the kind of storytelling that I wanted to do was not what I was doing, or so I thought. So I did take a break. But when I came back, I knew that I wanted to tell news stories, like stories that are palatable and accessible to people of a wide range. We have 400 news channels in India, but we did not have a global voice, as it were. So we wanted to tell our own story to the world and not depend on someone else to do that. And in my own small way, sort of, that's what I tried to do. We still have a long way to go, but I guess we've made a start.
You've done incredibly well so far, my goodness. So what about some of the big interviews? Can you share with us any of the big interviews or breaking news stories that have been memorable in your career that you've really enjoyed, or you were proud to be a part of that moment? There's been so many. Sorry, it's quite a difficult
there have
question.
Been so many. I think the big interviews, one of them I did in Dubai, that was Pervez Musharraf. He was the former president of Pakistan and the army chief. I think that was quite an interesting interview. I wouldn't say one story is more exciting than the other, because we tell the stories that excite us anyway. But of late, so last month I was in Israel just after the conflict began. The year before, I was in Ukraine to see what was happening. And when you're there on the ground and you talk to people, then you get a perspective that you do not get while you're sitting in your studio. And you realize that it's so easy for us to sit every night and say, this is the death toll and this is what has happened and these are the trends. But when you've been there, then you see how it touches lives, and it can be very moving, and it shapes you as an individual. All of those things. So
being on the ground, I can imagine, is very, very different. Yeah, because we're just getting numbers, and you sort of become in tune to what you're sort of watching. And yeah, being on the ground and actually seeing suffering like that must be very, very different.
And sometimes you see a trend that is building. I think Me Too was one such movement of sorts that was supported a lot by the media. We did not have any ground reports, as it were, but there was, or the big anti-corruption movement that we had in India. When you're part of those events, then you see history shaping in front of your very eyes, and you feel that there has to be a bigger purpose to what you're doing than just telling the news. I mean, you're actually shaping your story and that of your country or your people.
You're making history at the end of the day, yeah.
Or you're chronicling it.
Chronicling your history, exactly. Let's get back to financial independence. So I was reading a staggering 62% of women, of Indian women, don't have a bank account. And you've been quoted as saying that financial independence or financial well-being is the key to women empowerment. So what does women empowerment mean to you, and why is that so important when it comes to financial independence?
I think 62, you said?
62%,
I thought 80% of Indian women have
Oh,
bank
wow,
accounts,
okay.
but it's not as much as men, obviously. And it's better than the global average
Yeah.
for India. But I think in India, or I don't know about other societies, but women have a way of saving which is not documented in formal structures. So we are the biggest consumers of gold, and that is a form of security for women, and they stash away some money, but that money is just there. It's not investment, it's just a saving for a rainy day, and it's their understanding of security. I think even for women who have jobs and who are earning their own money are not managing it. I have a friend who runs a podcast on financial advice, and she told me that a lot of middle-aged women in India are now being struck with 2 Ds, that is debt and divorce. And then when they're on their own with a big debt, they do not know, they've never managed their finances. And so she's telling them to take charge of, and it can't be so difficult. And I think financial literacy is a life skill that should be taught in schools to everyone, but especially to women, because we need to know what we're doing with what we have. So I think financial independence is very important, and we need to I guess it's not on anyone's priority list, not that I know of. So
it's not as it's still something that's just sort of left behind.
Yeah.
Because as you said, there's financial independence, but then as you said, there's financial literacy, which is completely different, I suppose. So it's instilling that at a very early age, isn't it?
Yes.
Other than financial independence, what else do you think is needed for sort of women empowerment when it comes to being more independent and becoming more, independence, I suppose?
I think it would help to have more women leaders because they can inspire others. I think in schools and colleges, women tend to do better academically, at least in India they do, than boys. But then somewhere along the way, they drop out of the workforce because their career cycle and their biological cycles clash. And a lot of them choose their family or whatever it is that they're doing. And that's their choice. But I'm saying that we don't have a pipeline of leaders to draw from then after a certain point. So we need that. We also need networks that support women to pick a career of their choice. There are old boys clubs. There aren't such clubs or groups for women that enable them to make the choices that they want and grow. And they typically do not get the kind of investment. There was a very interesting study that was done, I don't know, I think it was in the US, where the same investment pitch was made in a man's voice and the same one was made in a woman's voice. And the one with the man's voice got more takers. So I think these are inbuilt biases, and it won't change overnight. And what we need to do then is to co-opt men and women in this journey of transformation, because we cannot change biology, but we can certainly transform our society and what it expects of us.
That's what we were talking about in one of the previous panels, actually, is like, do you think there should be blind pitching when it comes to entrepreneurship and trying to raise money? And as you said, a male voice got all the interest. So, I mean, obviously, it's a sad moment in time where you've got to do blind sort of pitching and things. But yeah, it's very interesting that the male voice got that through there. Really interesting. What sort of education and policy needs to be further developed in order to sort of help promote more financial literacy from the bottom up, sort of within the education system? Do you think a lot more needs to be done? And what sort of active role would you like to see government sort of play to change the playing field?
Unlock the GoDaddy Aero experience when you purchase a domain from GoDaddy and let AI do the heavy lifting for you. Find a great domain name, build a website, create a logo, and more, all fueled by the power of AI. Use GoDaddy Aero to help you build your business online.
With Google Workspace, apps like Docs, Drive, Gmail, and Meet are connected and in one place, so your whole team can make updates and stay up to date in real time. That's working together with Google Workspace.
Education policy, I'm not sure I'm the best person to talk about how it should change. Like I said, financial literacy should be introduced, but I was part of some conversations around G20 on women empowerment, and we had women leaders from various countries, all G20 members, in India a couple of months back, and ministers. And one of the interesting things that came out was STEM education, that more girls need to be encouraged to take up science, technology, engineering, and math, because the job market is going to change and it'll be more technology oriented. But I don't know if it's because of biases. I don't know if it's because women think or girls think that they will do better in humanities, which is okay if that's what they want to study. But there has to be an active intervention to encourage girls to pick up those subjects. STEM education is the way forward for them to be able to become more eligible for the kind of jobs that we'll have in the near future.
The future of jobs, because I did an interview with I think it was the one of the chiefs of L'Oreal, and she was saying, more and more women and girls are going in STEM education, but a lot of them fall short after they sort of graduate and they get their degrees and they do quite well at it. They either fall short from sort of family pressures, you see, and so they can never extend their careers. So it's how to sort of balance that going through and past sort of higher education and actually putting it into practice as well is like apparently a very big thing as well.
And some of this data is very, very disheartening. Like the gender pay gap, for instance, the best agencies in the world say that it's going to take 136 years or 140 years to close that gap, which tells us how slow our progress is. A couple of years back, I remember there was a study that came out that said that women who do unpaid work or work at home, if that were to be quantified and paid for, it would be some $11 trillion. And if those women were to make a country, they would have the third highest GDP in the world.
My goodness.
So they are contributing. And if you were to add it to the contribution that is converted into money, then women would be contributing much higher to the global GDP. So I think that there needs to be more awareness to what women are bringing to society. And they need to be compensated for that.
100%.
Yeah.
Very well said. And very quickly, what would you say? I want to talk about who your role model is in a minute. But first of all, anyone that's sort of in our audience here today, or anyone watching online, of course, you've got a big online audience. What sort of words of advice do you have for sort of younger women that are looking to get into journalism that maybe you'd wish that you'd known before getting into this field?
I wished I'd known before getting into this field.
How would you have navigated it better, do you think? If that's possible, of course.
I don't know. You need to make the best case for yourself. You have to market yourself. No one else is going to do that for you. I think that. But my first advice to anybody would be to read and to educate yourself, because that's what is going to stand you in good stead, no matter what you do. And it's very important because especially as journalists, we struggle with timelines. We are always faced with a stiff deadline, and we have to deliver. So it helps if you have some basic understanding of a subject, and you can't do it overnight. It's a process that takes years, and there is no shortcut to it. So you have to do it, and it can be daunting in the beginning, but eventually you're better off for it, and you like what you've done, the kind of work that you've put in. So I think it's very important to do your own reading, to research, to arm yourself with knowledge, because then you know that you cannot be shortchanged.
And journalism is not for the faint-hearted, is it?
It is not. It is not. It can be. You ask the junior most reporters on the field, they're sent on they're usually given education or crime. That's where you start as reporters. And crime reporting can be tough because you're thrown into all sorts of situations. You see all kinds of scenes which can be blood-curdling. And initially, some of those stories stay with you for very long. Slowly, you become more cynical and you learn to process it, and you know that you don't have to become very emotionally attached. The first time I went into a refugee's house, it stayed with me for months. And then I had to learn to tell myself that I'm not part of that story. I can only tell the story, but I do not have to go and find a school for those kids.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm here for. So I think it takes time to become more rational about the subjects that you're dealing with. And they're not easy. I mean, you learn every day. And sometimes it's upsetting because when you're talking about stories like hunger, they're not as exciting as war. So you see people switching off mentally or physically. And that's not nice because you're telling about the hardships that a huge section of our population is going through. So I think the challenge is to make it more interesting and palatable and exciting. All stories are not like that, but that's what we do.
And at the same time, growing a very thick skin at the same time, exactly. And making sure that you're not a part of the story, you're telling the story, as you said. Yeah. Very quickly, we've got 1 second to go, but I really want to know who your sort of inspiration is. Who do you look up to? And it's very important, as we were saying across this forum, that it's very important to have a role model and a mentor. So who is that for you?
For me, I think it's my mother. She got married at a very early age. She was studying and taking a formal degree till I was in high school. And she was doing it with everything else. And she was a teacher, she was raising us, and she was studying herself. And she's taught us to be true to our values and just take a shot and see where it takes you. So I think it takes a lot of grit. And her story is not unique, but that's I think what inspires me, and I hope that I can leave that behind for my own daughter. So I think she's always inspired me that way, and she's had a very positive approach to life, which is hard to emulate.
Really nice. We cannot thank you enough for making time for us here at the India Global Forum 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, Palki Sharma, thank you.
Join our global community of English learners, absolutely free. Download video transcripts, listen offline, start our beginner course, and join live classes with certified teachers. Access over 1,000 resources to improve your English faster. Everything's in one place. community.englishspeeches.ca. Let's speak English together.
Now you only need one subscription instead of multiple AI tools. One of my secret weapons is asking Grammarly to identify gaps in my essay. That's how you get feedback like this. If you think that citations take up too much time, then there is an auto citation tool that appears when you have the extension installed. But if you upgrade to Grammarly Pro, you get access to tools that can help you turn wordy sentences into clear, effective ones. Or even a plagiarism tracker if your university is really strict on that.
सपने स्किप नहीं सिप करो सिंपली विजिट kotakmf.com/MrSIP और सीखो SIP के साथ कैसे हो सकते हैं आपके सपने पूरे सिस्टमैटिकली।
और आप म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार जोखिमों के अधीन है। योजना से जुड़े सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।
Today, we present a powerful speech by Palki Sharma, an esteemed journalist and thought leader, as she explores India's trajectory under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership. With a focus on economic growth, digital advancement, and international diplomacy, Sharma provides a nuanced analysis of India's achievements and challenges. Join us to gain insights into the factors shaping India's future on the global stage.
Thank you, Mr. President. Namaskar and good evening to all of you. We're debating India's path tonight, and I could wrap my argument in one sentence borrowed from the White House. Go to New Delhi and see it for yourself. But I've been given more time than that, so I will tell you what I see. Earlier this week, I was on my way to the Delhi airport. There was a lot of traffic. At one point, the car stopped. On the roadside, I saw two vendors. One was selling fruit, the other was selling coconut water. What caught my attention was not what they were selling, but how they were selling it. Both had a QR code prominently displayed. And every single customer walked up to them, scanned this QR code, and paid for their purchase, every single one of them. To me, this is a picture of today's India. It shows three developments, three of the many developments I shall list out tonight. Number one is financial inclusion. Both the vendors had a bank account linked to their mobile phone. Number two is internet or mobile penetration, what we call digital India. It was 15% 9 years back. It's 48% today. And number three is the airport traffic. It just keeps swelling, even though we are at the receiving end. We see what it shows. From 67 million 9 years back to almost double now. To me, these things signify the path that India is on. The previous speakers have defined the motion well, but in case the evening drinks have kicked in, let me repeat. This House believes Modi's India is on the right path. And how do you determine if the path is right or wrong? You look at numbers, data, surveys, reports. I shall refer to all of these as I make my arguments. But I also want to dwell on something that's more personal, more important, I think, yet unquantifiable. I'm talking about the experience of living in today's India. I have lived in many Indias. The wary India where exciting policies and positions were abandoned. The self-doubting India, where decisions were taken based on global opinion. And today, a more confident India where the world comes for leadership and inspiration. You cannot put a premium on that. Indians are more prosperous at home and hence more confident abroad. Let me also tell you what I saw at the airport here in London, at the immigration counter.
Isn't it intriguing to see how OTT platforms stream content curated for different user personas? Not only do they recommend the top trending content, they also show content which appeals to their subscribers at an individual level. Are you keen on learning how these big streaming platforms cater to millions of concurrent users? And do you want to delve deep into their infrastructure using caches, databases, load balancers, etc.? Attend this free live masterclass by Scalar on high-level design of OTT platforms and enhance your knowledge of their back-end system design. Click on the link below to register.
Automate workflows without a single line of code. You are in command with one-click end-to-end deployment on a VPS with Hostinger. Create custom nodes and automation templates at lightning speed on a secure VPS. Using a pre-installed end-to-end application to master flexible workflows. Explore risk-free with our 30-day money-back guarantee and live support whenever you need it. Go to hostinger.in to get end-to-end VPS hosting at a cost 3 times cheaper than a cloud solution. Trusted by millions. Hostinger 3, 2, online.
I saw Indians proudly flaunting their passport, none of the fidgeting or self-doubt of the last century. And if I may add, the immigration officer almost looked impressed. She was either a fan of India or just worried that she was holding up one of Rishi Sunak's relatives. We are proud of what we share with the world. Bollywood, masala chai, yoga, cricket. India today is a soft power giant. At the same time, India is not a timid democracy that tolerates terrorism or betrayals. When Pakistani terrorists attacked Kashmir's Pulwama, India carried out surgical strikes on Balakot. Today's India is not a pushover country. It's a world power, denied. Today, invasions and colonialism are part of our history, not our identity. We are shaped by years of subjugation, not defined by them. We are excited about our global responsibilities, not wary of them. This change in confidence comes from growth at home. Which brings me to the numbers. I'll start with India's welfare state system and how it has fared in the past decade. 110 million new gas connections, 470 million bank accounts, 220 million insurance beneficiaries. And to be fair, the welfare concept is not new to India. It's been there for a while. What's new is the approach. It's not just about putting more money in the pocket, it's about empowering people. And the result, once again, the evidence shows in the numbers. India's per capita income has gone from 86,000 rupees in 2014 to 172,000 rupees now. It has doubled. And a big reason for that is the falling inflation, from more than 8% 9 years back to less than 6% today. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is in the middle of a global cost of living crisis. Foreign direct investment is at its highest level. Foreign trade is at its highest level. The growth mantra is connectivity. And I don't have to tell the British that. First thing you did in your colonies was build roads and railways. Our growth story has been about two Indias: the urban India, the bustling urban India, and a sluggish rural India. Today, we are trying to connect the two. We are building more than 38 kilometers of highway every day, which is 50% more than what it was 7 years ago. The number of airports has doubled since 2014. The total capacity at seaports has doubled. This connectivity is what is driving India forward. You mentioned GST. Our constitution calls India a union of all states, which is a great tribute to our diversity. But it also meant 28 different state economies, different taxes, different trade practices. This government tried to unify it to create a single Indian market. It took time, but the result is this today. Tax collection is at its highest ever. The number of taxpayers has doubled since 2017. I have a lot of data I could go on, but you get the drift. So now I'm going to talk about India's global position. Because your path is also about your role in the world. Are you a troublemaker or a consensus builder? I think there is no doubt as to where India stands. India is a member of the Quad and the SCO. India is invited to the G7, but is also a member of the BRICS. India rubs shoulders with the West, but also leads the global South. Which other country can claim to juggle these roles? And how does India do it? Because we are not trying to play an outsized role in the world, we are trying to play the right role. In the Russia-Ukraine war, India has not taken sides. And I know it confuses a lot of people here, but back home the thinking is very clear. It is not in our national interest to pick sides and make things worse. India has excellent relations with Russia and the West, and we want to preserve that. It's like when your two good friends fight. Do you pick sides and make things worse? Or do you try to talk sense to them and bridge the divide? I know what a good friend would do. I see what India is doing. India has always been, or always tried, to be a part of the solution, not the problem. Look at our neighborhood policy. When Sri Lanka was sinking, India provided assistance worth $4 billion, no strings attached, no grudges held, for Colombo's proximity with China. A lot of people say that India is losing control of South Asia. I say South Asia was never India's to control. New Delhi is building relations based on mutual respect and equality, and the results show beyond government interactions. Countries like Nepal and Bhutan are using India's online payment systems. Students from the neighborhood come to India for training, grants, and scholarships. This government has aced what we call Buddhist diplomacy. It is leveraging India's position as a cradle of Buddhism. All these initiatives have made India popular. The world stands with us against Chinese expansionism. The global South looks up to us for leadership. The global North looks up to us for partnership. I think that's the hallmark of great diplomacy and statecraft, when you're loved and respected in all quarters. More importantly, when you're trusted in all quarters. India repaid that trust during the COVID-19 pandemic. When the world forgot about morals and globalization, India sent 24 crore vaccines to 100 countries.
वो सुनते थे हमारी हर जिद, हर फरियाद, खिलौना हो या ख्वाब, पापा ने सुनी है हर बात बिना कहे। किसी दिन खामोश हो तो पापा दिल की आवाज भी सुन लेते थे, पर आज जब उन्हें पुकारता हूं तो आवाज कहीं खो सी जाती है। पास रहकर भी पापा हमें सुन नहीं पाते। तो इस फादर्स डे क्यों ना हम उन्हें एक तोहफा दें, फिर सुनने का, हर आवाज महसूस करने का, ताकि उनके चेहरे की मुस्कान कभी कम ना हो।
6.3 करोड़ भारतीय रोज अपनी सुनने की ताकत खो रहे हैं। आज ही फ्री हियरिंग टेस्ट बुक करें। हैप्पी फादर्स डे। सीमित समय के लिए विशेष ऑफर, हियरिंग एड्स पर 40% डिस्काउंट। एम्पलीफोन, योर हियरिंग, योर लाइफ। सुपीरियर एक्सपर्टीज एंड अनलिमिटेड केयर।
Let's go.
नूडल्स पर लगाओ देसी चाइनीज का तड़का। Ching's instant noodles, so hot. Why not?
And you saw the result of that in Papua New Guinea. When Prime Minister Modi landed there, their Prime Minister touched his feet. This was not a personal gesture to a leader. This was a vote of thanks to the entire country. Let's talk about domestic affairs. Kashmir was brought up. This government abrogated Article 370. Today, Kashmir's economy is doing much better. 1.8 crore tourists visited the valley in the last year. That's the highest ever in Indian history, 1.8 crore. Kashmir is getting its first ever foreign direct investment, and that too from a company in the UAE. But since this is Kashmir, let's not limit ourselves to finances. Let's talk about security. Terror attacks in the valley have almost halved in the last few years. The numbers are staring in your face. Security is better, economy is better, Kashmir is better. Plus, we have corrected a historical wrong imposed on India. Let me also address something else that was raised by the opposite side, and that is religious intolerance. It's easy to quote anecdotal evidence and paint an entire country as intolerant. But random elements and sporadic incidents do not speak for India or its leadership or its government. Only policies do, and I'll tell you about those policies. More Muslim students got scholarships in Modi's first term than the previous government. I'm talking about 2 million more Muslim students. If the idea was to marginalize them, why give them more scholarships? Look at the government's Hajj policy. Prime Minister Modi held personal talks with the Saudi regime to increase India's Hajj quota. In 2014, it was 136,000. By 2019, it was more than 200,000. Again, if the idea was to marginalize Muslims, why increase the Hajj quota? This government abolished triple talaq. Would you call it reform or repression? Let me also tell you what a Pew study found in 2021. It runs counter to every argument that will be made here tonight. It found that 89% of all Muslims and Christians in India say they're free to practice their religion. I'll repeat, 89% of all surveyed Muslims and Christians, but no, let's build on perceptions and anecdotes, not on facts. I would also point you to all the social schemes, the bank accounts, the gas connections, the insurance policies. They're available to all citizens of all religions. Does that mean India cannot do better? Absolutely not. Even one incident of marginalization is one too many, but how would you judge an entire country's path? In fact, it struck me when I was invited for this event, why would Oxford University be interested in debating the path of Modi's India?
The biggest mistake when starting a business is investing all your money in a complex website. GoDaddy allows you to create a beautiful catalog for your products and engage directly with your customers. Simplify your online presence with GoDaddy Show and Bio.
What if you could do all your SEO in one tab? Meet SEMrush, a tool to find winning keywords, create top-ranking content, track your competitors, build backlinks, and fix technical issues. All in one platform, and it's free for 7 days. See what you can achieve with powerful SEO tools by SEMrush. Try it now.
Because India has defied Western predictions. It's the world's largest democracy charting its own course. India today has shed the burden of trying to comply with Western constructs. No amount of lecturing or virtue signaling is shaking India's confidence, and that is what unsettles critics. There are hit-and-run experts with no accountability who make pronouncements based on their political leanings to create an anti-India narrative. GDP growth won't touch 5%. There was corruption in the Rafale deal. The government was snooping in opposition parties using Pegasus. All of these make for juicy headlines. And they make it look like everything is wrong in India. But when a Supreme Court investigation finds no wrongdoing, when India's growth crosses 7%, who is questioning these experts? When an 85% Hindu majority Karnataka votes out the BJP, is the West then lauding India's secular credentials? You see, to judge a country's path, you have to be able to separate agenda-driven narrative from facts. In conclusion, let me say this. For any country in the world, there is always a wrong path. Enough dictators and autocrats have shown us, but there is no single right path. Britain has its own right path. India has its own right path. As long as democracy is respected, as long as the constitution is respected, I would say to each their own. It is wrong to judge one country on the parameters of another. And that has been the beauty of India since 2014. We've uplifted 140 million people out of poverty. We did so while conducting free and fair elections, dozens of them. We did so while protesting, debating, and dissenting. And finally, I think the hallmark of a right direction is also public approval. Do the people think you're on the right path? The people of India answered that question in 2019. Thank you.
Visit our site, EnglishSpeechChannel.com, for exclusive access to video transcripts, offline audio, English lessons, and private classes. Don't forget to explore our free and new ebooks. Also, subscribe to our weekly newsletter for the latest updates. Links in the description below. Thanks for your support.
होस्टिंगर के .org डोमेन के साथ इंटरनेट पर अपने मिशन का प्रचार करें, डोमेन क्लेम करें।
Welcome to another insightful session at English Speeches. Today, we're diving into a powerful speech delivered by Subramanyam Jaishankar, India's Minister for External Affairs, at the 77th session of the UN General Assembly. Discover how India celebrates its 75 years of independence, the visionary steps under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership, and the country's future pledges. Learn how these points connect to broader global issues like multilateralism, environmental care, and international diplomacy.
Madam President, Excellencies, distinguished members of the General Assembly, I bring to you the greetings of 1.3 billion plus people from the world's largest democracy. They join me in congratulating the President of the General Assembly, Ambassador Csaba Kőrösi, on his election to chair the 77th session of the UN General Assembly. They follow closely developments at the United Nations, reflecting the increasingly globalized nature of our existence. We meet at a challenging time for the world order. This session's theme, a watershed moment, transformative solutions to interlocking challenges, seeks to capture its seriousness. Excellencies, the year 2022 is an important milestone in India's journey towards growth, development, and prosperity. India is celebrating 75 years of its independence, what we call Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. The story of that period has been one of toil, of determination, innovation, and enterprise of millions of ordinary Indians. They are rejuvenating a society pillaged by centuries of foreign attacks and colonialism. And they are doing so in a democratic framework whose steady progress is reflected in more authentic voices and grounded leadership. This new India, under the visionary and dynamic leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is a confident and resurgent society. Its agenda for our centenary will be achieved through the 5 pledges that we committed to on our Independence Day. 1, we are resolved to make India a developed country in the next 25 years. For the world, that creates more capacities for global good. 2, we will liberate ourselves from a colonial mindset. Externally, this means reformed multilateralism and more contemporary global governance. 3, our rich civilizational heritage will be a source of pride and of strength. This includes care and concern for the environment, so ingrained in our traditional ethos. 4, we will promote greater unity and solidarity. This expresses a coming together on global issues such as terrorism, pandemics, or the environment. And 5, we will instill consciousness of duties and responsibilities. This applies to nations as much as it does to citizens. These 5 pledges affirm our age-old outlook that sees the world as one family. We believe that national good and global good can be entirely in harmony. It is this conviction that led us to supply vaccines to over 100 nations. Similarly, our evacuation operations in HADR situations always had room for other nationals in distress. Even as we meet our own development targets, India offers partnerships to our brothers and sisters in Asia, in Africa, and Latin America. And we do so based on their needs and their priorities. Today, the focus is on green growth, better connectivity, digital delivery, and accessible health. Our solidarity is not just in words. You can see them in 700 projects across the world. Madam President, even while India contributes to global betterment, we recognize the sharp deterioration in the international landscape. The world is already struggling with challenges of post-pandemic economic recovery. The debt situation of the developing is precarious. To this is now added the rising costs and the shrinking availability of fuel, of food, and of fertilizers. These, along with trade disruptions and diversions, are among the many consequences of the Ukraine conflict. The Indo-Pacific, too, witnesses fresh concerns about its stability and its security. And climate events have added an overlay on these mounting anxieties. As we saw in the case of the COVID pandemic, the South will be the most impacted even if the immediate causes are well beyond. It is imperative that global conversations recognize this deep unfairness. The inequity of vaccine distribution should not be replicated in other domains. Madam President, as the Ukraine conflict continues to rage, we are often asked, whose side are we on? And our answer each time is straight and honest. India is on the side of peace and will remain firmly there. We are on the side that respects the UN Charter and its founding principles. We are on the side that calls for dialogue and diplomacy as the only way out. We are on the side of those struggling to make ends meet, even as they stare at the escalating costs of food, of fuel, and fertilizers. It is therefore in our collective interest to work constructively, both within the United Nations and outside, in finding an early resolution to this conflict. Excellencies, while the global attention has been on Ukraine, India has also had to contend with other challenges, especially in its own neighborhood. Some of them may be aggravated by the COVID pandemic and ongoing conflicts, but they speak too of a deeper malaise. The accumulation of debt in fragile economies is of particular concern. We believe that in such times, the international community must rise above narrow national agendas. India, for its part, is taking exceptional measures in exceptional times. We do so when we send 50,000 metric tons of wheat and multiple tranches of medicines and vaccines to Afghanistan. When we extend credits of $3.8 billion to Sri Lanka for fuel, essential commodities, and trade settlement. When we supply 10,000 metric tons of food aid and vaccine shipments to Myanmar. When we fill the gap in humanitarian needs left unaddressed by political complexity. Whether it is disaster response or humanitarian assistance, India has stood strong, contributing particularly to those nearest to us. Excellencies, the world as we knew it is poised for transformational changes. It has been impacted in recent times by a succession of shocks, each of them significant by itself. The COVID pandemic called into question the over-centralized nature of globalization and has led all of us to seek greater resilience and reliability of supply chains. The repercussions of the ongoing Ukraine conflict have further heightened economic stresses, especially on food and energy. Climate events have added to disruption that the world is already facing. As for the promise of technology, it has certainly multiplied our capabilities, but also added to our vulnerabilities. Trust and transparency are legitimate expectations of a more digitized world. The quest to create a better global order would necessarily have to address all these issues. Among them, some are clearly more existential in nature and necessitate intense coordination by the international community. Climate action and climate justice are particularly noteworthy in this respect. In their pursuit, India has worked with partners on the International Solar Alliance, the One Sun, One World, One Grid initiative, and the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. We stand ready to support any collective and equitable endeavor to protect our environment and to further global wellness. Lifestyle for environment, or LIFE, as declared by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Glasgow on the sidelines of COP26, is our homage to Mother Nature. India remains deeply committed to fighting climate change under the UNFCCC and the Paris Agreement. We do so on the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities in the light of different national circumstances. We have announced our updated nationally determined contributions after COP26. Excellencies, India's steadfast commitment to South-South cooperation is by now well established and well recognized. Our approach is based on principles of mutual respect and national ownership, with a commitment to sustainable development for all. As we begin the G20 presidency this December, we are sensitive to the challenges faced by developing countries. India will work with other G20 members to address serious issues of debt, of economic growth, food and energy security, and particularly of environment. The reform of governance of multilateral financial institutions will continue to be one of our core priorities. Madam President, India would be completing its tenure as a member of the Security Council this year. In our term, we have acted as a bridge on some serious but divisive issues confronting the Council. We have also focused on concerns such as maritime security, peacekeeping, and counterterrorism. Our contributions range from providing technology with a human touch to ensuring safety and security of UN peacekeepers. As the chair of the Counterterrorism Committee this year, India would be hosting its special meeting in Mumbai and New Delhi. I invite all member states to participate in it. We need to create a global architecture that responds to the new tech tools deployed against open, diverse, and pluralistic societies. Having borne the brunt of cross-border terrorism for decades, India firmly advocates a zero-tolerance approach. In our view, there is no justification for any act of terrorism, regardless of motivation, and no rhetoric, however sanctimonious, can ever cover up bloodstains. The United Nations responds to terrorism by sanctioning its perpetrators, those who politicize the UNSC 1267 sanctions regime, sometimes even to the extent of defending proclaimed terrorists. They do so at their own peril. Believe me, they advance neither their own interests nor indeed their reputation. India has always espoused a cooperative, inclusive, and consultative approach to international relations. We believe that multipolarity, rebalancing, fair globalization, and reformed multilateralism cannot be kept in abeyance. The call for reformed multilateralism, with reforms of the Security Council at its core, enjoys considerable support among UN members. It does so because of the widespread recognition that the current architecture is anachronistic and ineffective. It is also perceived as deeply unfair, denying entire continents and regions a voice in a forum that deliberates their future. India is prepared to take up greater responsibilities, but it seeks, at the same time, to ensure that the injustice faced by the Global South is decisively addressed. Our call is to allow serious negotiations on such a critical matter to proceed sincerely. They must not be blocked by procedural tactics. Naysayers cannot hold the IGN process hostage in perpetuity. In these turbulent times, it is essential that the world listens to more voices of reason and experiences more acts of goodwill. India is willing and able on both counts. We believe and advocate that this is not an era of war or of conflict. On the contrary, it is a time for development and for cooperation. Madam President, in the past, This August assembly has served as a meeting point of views and as a catalyst for action. It is vital that we continue to believe in the promise of diplomacy and the need for international cooperation. Therefore, Madam President, let us strive to return to the course of seeking peace, progress, and prosperity. I thank you.
Visit our site, EnglishSpeechChannel.com, for exclusive access to video transcripts, offline audio, English lessons, and private classes. Don't forget to explore our free and new ebooks. Also, subscribe to our weekly newsletter for the latest updates. Links in the description below. Thanks for your support.
बचपन से मुझे इन्हीं की तरह एक सुपर हीरो बनना था। But now I believe वर्ल्ड को ऐसे रियल सुपर हीरोज की ज्यादा जरूरत है।
डॉक्टर बनने का हो पैशन तो वीएमसी मेडिकल को बनाओ अपना डेस्टिनेशन। अ पर्सनलाइज्ड रिजल्ट ड्रिवन मेडिकल एंट्रेंस प्रोग्राम, वीएमसी मेडिकल फॉर द डॉक्टर्स ऑफ टुमारो।
It's not often that I'm downright intimidated by the person I'm about to interview. Kristalina Georgieva, easy for lunch. But SRK is a legend, aren't you?
You're being very sweet, Richard. Like I told you, I'm not a legend. I'm Bond, James Bond. I told you that at the backstage.
Say that again. Go on. What's your name?
Bond, James Bond.
Would you like to play Bond?
I'd really wanted to, but I think I'm too short.
What about Bond Baddie?
Baddie, yes, of course. I'm brown enough.
If we look at your career, how many years?
Now, I think actively including television, 33 years now. I've been actively working as an actor.
But to have reached the level of stardom that you have reached, and for the length of time, is quite an achievement. It's more than that. It's a huge achievement. But it speaks to more than just, obviously, the raw talent, but it also speaks to perseverance, the ability to keep going, which is something that's so crucial.
I think it's, perseverance is, I think it happens to some people. You don't have any option but to persevere. So maybe when I was young, I lost my parents very early, and then you realize that, okay, there's no rewinding this. There's no coming back from death, and you have to continue, make the most of what you have. So I was kind of a youngish orphan, and I had to work my way through it. Or it could be just part of nature, it's the nature of the beast that you are just with dogged determination. You keep on working.
Where does that come from?
I don't know. I've always tried to analyze it, that, why do I do what I do? Why do I wake up in the morning and just start doing it all over again, even when it's... I think it taught me, the work that I do, making films, the result happens very suddenly. You think you made the best of films. You think it's the nicest of stories to tell. You think the world is going to love it. And you wake up on a Friday morning and realize it's the biggest flop of your career. And you're
Which happens,
which happens more often than not. Or sometimes you don't like a film and that becomes the biggest hit of your career. And you say, how did this happen? But what I realized, and I want to say this to everyone, actually, and I say this to everyone who's working with me or people who know me, that on Thursday evening, because our films release on Fridays, mostly, or Thursday evenings here in Dubai. So Thursday evening at home in Mumbai, I rinse myself with a 2-hour bath and rinse myself of the work that I've done. Because what happens...
Well, hang on.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that bath.
It's a ritual, yeah.
Is it a ritual? I mean, do you put special oils and scents? Do you have bath salts? Do you prepare with candles?
I'm not telling you my secret. You come and take a bath with me. Easy. I'm an actor. I'll show you how to do it.
Should I take him up on his offer? You carry on, sir.
Okay. No, but honestly, I do, because, I realize when you do a big hit film, it's done well and you're very happy and everybody's jumping around. Friday happens, Saturday happens, Sunday happens. And you realize this is a big blockbuster, but Monday I have to get back to work to make a better film. You made a flop film. Friday you're sad. Saturday you're crying. Sunday you're moping and you're not waking up from bed. Monday you have to get back to work and start making a better film. So Mondays are for trying to make better films always. So you have to persevere.
Okay, but let me be crude. You don't need the money.
No, I need the money.
Oh, you do?
The bath oils are very expensive.
Fine. If you had to define the quintessential SRK film, what would it be?
I've said this before. I was telling you behind. I don't know when it happened, Richard, to be honest. I didn't realize it. I never wanted to be someone who's, like I say, peddling love or seller of dreams. I wanted to be an action guy with 8-packs and beat up people, be in a white vest, girl on my side with a Glock in my hand, and speak in baritone and things like that. But I never got the opportunity. I don't know. When I started off, suddenly everybody started to think of me as someone who's, promising hope, giving hope, and spreading love, like I spread my arms again and again. So I think my regular film would be a film that gives you hope, gives you goodness, gives you happiness, and at the end of it all, lots of good songs.
Yes, but you've also, there's a great YouTube video, 4 minutes of your best entrances.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of action in them.
Yeah, only entries, no exits. I just keep entering again and again. My kids get very, when I have 3 kids, and whenever that video plays, and I have to tell you a secret, we've compiled it from the office. I think it looks just very cool. It's not made by others. We've made it. So whenever a show like this happens, and if you allow me to show a video here, we'll show you me just entering some places and very dramatically and romantically. But my kids make a lot of fun of it. Whenever I get a little serious with them, they'll just look at me and say, oh my God, he's doing those entries from his video, SRK. So it does become. Do you
want to give us an example?
Oh yeah, I can do that. Yeah,
just,
you want to walk around?
With your permission, sir. We'll.
If it's okay, yeah.
Yeah, go on. Is there something you would not do? On screen?
On screen, I don't know. I wouldn't be... I'd like to give hope in my films. The stories that I tell, I hope they end with hope. I know I've done some really sad films also. I've done films which are tragedies. But somewhere down the line, I just hope that I can give hope in films. So I don't like to give hopeless cinema or hopeless stories, because I think in life and in businesses and in jobs and world, there's enough sadness.
So you're extremely well known here, obviously because of the Indian population that is here and elsewhere. But you like it here. You have a home. You are not a here today, gone tomorrow person for Dubai.
No. I spend a lot of time here. I have a beautiful house which has been given to me by Nakhil, and it's one of the nicest places in the world because nobody troubles me. And His Excellency, the Prime Minister, also just told me that he stays next to it. So the next New Year party is with him. He's a good neighbor. But it's really nice. I really, really enjoy being in Dubai. I really love being here.
And you find the juxtaposition with going back to Mumbai?
No, this is very easy. It's just 2.5 hours away.
Right.
So I keep dropping in. We come with the kids. And there's so much to do here. I'm sounding like the tourist ambassador of Dubai suddenly, right?
Everybody asks about crossover. And I'm no different. Because the more I researched you, the more I wondered. I mean, all right, supposedly 2011 DiCaprio never happened. Supposedly, allegedly, Slumdog Millionaire you turned down, allegedly. Why hasn't the crossover taken place? I don't see why it should. You're a big enough name in your own genre, but why has crossover not taken place?
I've said this honestly, but nobody believes it. So I'm going to say it to you very, very honestly. Nobody's ever offered me any work, crossover of substance. I may have had conversations with people. I know lots of lovely people from the West, from the English film industry, from the American film industry, but nobody's offered me any good work. I hear actors talk about, oh yes, I want to crossover, I want to take Indian cinema. I think I still have to learn how to be able to deliver to the audience that likes me. And, instead of spreading myself too thin. And then, yeah, of course, if you've not been offered a job, how do you take it? So really, I've never been offered a film in Hollywood or in England. Yes, Slumdog was there, now that you mention it. And I spent a lot of time with Mr. Boyle. He's very sweet. But I was doing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire on television. Successfully at that time. And I just felt in the story that was being told, the guy who was hosting was very mean. In the story that was being told. And I'm like, I'm here doing Slumdog Millionaire. And the guys who were producing the show wanted me to do the film. I just found it, this guy's, I was cheating and being dishonest as the host. So I just found that it's very strange that I'm being a host and I'm cheating in the film. So I explained to Mr. Boyle that I wouldn't like to do it, please. And they're way better actors than me. And I think Mr. Anil Kapoor did it, and he was fantastic as the host.
When the person's getting close to 1 million, or the top in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, that moment, what do you feel?
Genuinely, when I was hosting it, I would hope they win it. I really, really hope they win it.
But I've done a quiz show myself, and there comes a point when you think, how close can I get to getting them to win it without...
Yeah.
Did you know what I mean?
I always did that, when I was, because there's so many people from different parts of the country, and I really want them to win. And you do try to be a little helpful.
But you can't.
You can't because the producer keeps shouting in your ears, you've said enough. You can't talk about it. And unfortunately, the last 4 questions or the last 2 questions are extremely difficult. Suddenly they're thrown upon you and you're like, oh my God, this person is not going to get the answer. And I feel really bad. And I try to think, I wish I had some hint, and I can't mislead the person by trying to give that hint because I also mostly didn't know the answer.
So what is left that you have not done that you would like to do? And by that, I that's not a Hollywood question. That is a general, even within within Indian films, within production, within what still remains on your list?
So, Richard, when I started off, I just wanted to survive. Be able to get a week's work or a month's work or a year's work and say, okay, my films should do well. But as years have gone past, I think my whole job has become more and more motivated towards bringing in new technology into Indian film industry. I want to end my career, which is far from ending right now. I have another good 35 years to go. I really, really want to make that film which is loved by the whole world. And then nobody on a big stage like this asks me, why haven't you crossed over? That film should cross me over. That's my dream. I'd want you to learn Hindi and Urdu and Arabic to be able to understand that film.
Did you go on a massive retreat of personal introspection between 2018 and 2023? You just had 2 or 3 films that were not as successful. Suddenly he disappears and everybody thinks, oh, he's licking his wounds, he's feeling sorry for himself, and then he comes back in 23 with 3 blockbusters. What was going on in that interim period?
So you're very kind. Yes, I had massive flops, and they did very, very badly. And I was doing all of that. I was licking my wounds. I was not in... you know what I did?
Yeah.
For 4 years?
Go on.
I've never said this to anyone, though I've mentioned it. But today, here, I'll tell everyone. I learned how to make the best pizza in the world. That's what I did. Honest to God. I stopped listening to stories. I stopped wanting to tell stories. I found myself and made myself a small kitchen. And I started learning how to make pizzas. And I learned what you asked me right to begin with, perseverance. Because to get the perfect pizza, it takes millions of square pizzas before you're able to make it completely round. So I learned perseverance, and I will make the best pizza in the world.
Can you?
No. I'm working on it. Next 4 years when you don't see me.
But was it a difficult moment when your wife and your family and everybody said, will you stop making pizza? Go back to work. Was it difficult to know now is the time to go back?
Yeah, actually, there was always a toss-up. I was very glad my family didn't tell me, listen, your pizzas are better than your films, stop making films. So I was glad they turned around and said, no, as good as your pizza is, I think your films are better. They were very encouraging, especially my children, my team, some of them are sitting here. And they said, okay, what you're going to do is tell stories. And, I'd become indulgent. I'd started becoming too innovative. I was looking for perfection. And I started failing. I needed to look for excellent. I needed to be unique, but I needed to look at the audience, what they want. And I'd stopped hearing the crowds. I used to go where there are thousands and lakhs of people waving at me, but I wouldn't hear or feel what they wanted to see of me. I was going there and waving, and I'm saying, whatever I make, I'll be innovative. So I did a film about a vertically challenged guy. I did a film about a manic psychopathic fan. And I'm like, no, people just like to see me giving hope and happiness and love. So let's get back to that.
And as a result, the movies that you came back to make, and there were 3 of them last year, were huge successes. Therefore, that introspection clearly worked. That clearly did the trick.
Yes, mashallah. I think it just helped me realize that whatever you do, you have to do for the people or your consumers or your audiences. And yeah, it also made me realize one very main thing, that don't forget to pray. You have to pray and you have to get back to work.
Sir, I'm going to leave you with one. I'm sorry, I've forgotten. What was your name again? Your name is?
Bond. James Bond.
He's available for the offers. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, everyone. Khuda Hafiz.
Visit our site, EnglishSpeechChannel.com, for exclusive access to video transcripts, offline audio, English lessons, and private classes. Don't forget to explore our free and new ebooks. Also, subscribe to our weekly newsletter for the latest updates. Links in the description below. Thanks for your support.
So, first of all, thank you very much for having me here at the Inspire series. It's worked dramatically. I'm already inspired to be addressing this really august intellectual gathering of people from Harvard, a place that my mother thought I will never reach. But you know what? A lot of people have spoken before me and eloquently and described their dreams for India, and given figures and facts that either are skeptical and, like Mr. Wilbur says, aspirational. But I'm just an actor. And I'm going to just give you my dream shamelessly, because that's the thing that I can do best. And by that I mean, when we talk of dreams, we have one of our greatest scientists and philanthropists, Dr. Abdul Kalam. And he said something which is very interesting. He said, dreams are not what you have when you sleep. The true dreams are the ones that don't let you sleep. He said that when you have that dream once, it's a dream. When you have it twice, it becomes a desire. And when you see it for the 3rd time consecutively, it becomes a passion, an aim, and a goal. And that is the passion with which I want to see this fantasy that I have for India 2030. And Abraham Lincoln also was a dreamer. And, but he said one thing that makes most sense in trying to achieve this goal that I have dreamt for my nation. He said, if I have 6 hours to cut down a tree, then I will spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. There's a great philosophy in that. In this era of instant gratification, we just keep thinking we can achieve all these goals by just tweaking this, tweaking that. It's not true. I really believe that that a missionary zeal is required to make that quantum change that can make 2030 what I'm dreaming about right now. And just let's look at India as a country. What a unique nation, seriously. Thousands of years old of culture and tradition, many invasions, being ruled for many years, and we still somehow managed to maintain our identity. We still somehow have managed to maintain our Indianness, our beliefs, our faith. And, there has been, we have our drawbacks. There is corruption, there is violence, there is differences between the different religions and sects and castes and everything. But I can't help but think, looking at India, at the geography, that we're not doing really that bad. Look at all the other nations around in the world. Look at our neighbors. Compared to that, there is somebody in India who's doing something right for us to be called a growing economy and being projected as the third largest economy in 2026 and the most educated and young nation in the world. And it's still functional democracy. So let's first accept the fact that there is some people in India with the right ideas and the ability to lead the nation to where we are today. Under that assumption, we are also very capable of finding very unique solutions to the problems that generally the world faces. One of them, of course, is the fact that we found freedom through non-violence and non-cooperation. Who would have thought that was possible? We have some other great... No, seriously, I mean, it was as radical a thought then as it is today. And one man in a loincloth with belief and faith and complete conviction was able to do that for us. Mahatma Gandhi. And it's an amazing country of people like Mahavir, Gautam Buddha, and Mahatma Gandhi, and then Bhagat Singh, who also had a dream. He dreamt then, 85 years ago, that I dream of an India where no infant cries for the want of milk. No youngster is deprived of relevant education, and no youth goes door to door finding a job. Sadly, it's still a dream today. And I dream of a 2030 when this dream becomes irrelevant. I dream of a 2030 when everybody is so equally satisfied with what they're doing that they're able to actually devote more time back to art and culture, which is another great important aspect of our country. Now, for that to happen, we need to be a healthy nation. And when I say healthy, I remember preparing for a film of mine, which released recently, where I had to look like a boxer. And I had these, biceps and triceps that had to be there. So I decided just to work on the parts that is seen outside my clothes. So I was just working out on my biceps and my triceps and my shoulders. But you know what? I suddenly realized the strength that I had in my arms and biceps was not actually enough for me to look even fit, because it is disproportionate growth. It is the kind of growth that will not make you fit or strong, but actually make you look inadequate. And that is what is happening to India today. Everybody says we are the largest economy, we're going to be the most populated country in the years to come. And, with economic superpower and supremacy in rocket and space technology, which I'm privy to, and then the IT giants and smarter cities. But ladies and gentlemen, I really believe that more than smarter cities, we require smart villages. And this is going to be primarily what I talk about today. A nation is only as strong as its weakest link, and rural India is our weakest link. See, it's important that that growth and progress goes hand in hand with the villages also getting onto the same train towards economic freedom, superpowerdom, all the terms that have been coined for a successful country. But that is not happening. The reason being, we're beginning to ignore them. We're beginning to actually believe that this is a very interesting line that I've found, where they say that everybody believes that they know what is required for getting the underprivileged and the poor up to speed with the rest of the country. Okay? And we always start assuming that this is what they want. This is how we can help the poor and the villages, and this is what they need. And we can't be more wrong. Because when you assume, and as the spelling goes, you make an ass of you and me. I'm going to tell you how that happened to a friend of mine. His name was, he's a very profound doctor, a gastroenterologist, and he got a call from his patient, Mr. Abdul, who said, Dr. Saab, my wife is really, really ill, and she's got a big stomach ache, and she can't sit, and she can't sleep, and she's in big pain. Can I come and visit you? And he said, yeah, by all means. And like all patients today, he has done his research, he's gone into the internet, and he said, usko ye ho sakta hai, wo ho sakta hai. And the doctor said, don't worry, let me handle it. And he checked her out, and he said, she has an infected appendix, so I have to do a surgery, and she'll be fine. The surgery was done, he was fine, and Abdul was a happy man. 1 year later, he calls back the doctor and says, sir, my wife has got a stomachache, please do the appendix operation, she'll be fine. So Dr. Manoj said, listen, I'm the doctor, let me diagnose what I have to, please bring her to the clinic and we'll fix it up. He says, yes sir, fix up that operation date, we'll do it in half an hour and we'll be back, just she needs her appendix removed. So now he's losing his patience, he says, let me do the diagnosis, Abdul, bring her to the clinic. And he's still insisting, and finally the doctor lost it and he said, listen, I'm the doctor, and let me tell you that every human being has only one appendix. And I've already taken out the appendix. So please don't tell me how to do my job. Abdul waited very patiently for the doctor to finish with his assumptions. And then he shot back very meekly. He said, sir, I agree with you. Every human being can have one appendix, but a man can have two wives, right? So when we start assuming what the rural India needs, we do what I think is most dangerous. In my vast experiences of shooting in really rural Indias, and villages and small kugramams, like they call it in Tamil, really small places, I realized, shockingly, that the biggest financial burden for a person of this particular village, would you all be able to guess what his biggest financial burden is? 5 minutes? Hey, so I'm going to speak for 20 today. I'm going to reduce the number of questions. I'm prepared. Is that okay? Okay, so can you all tell me, anybody, quick answers, anybody know which is the biggest financial burden for a man in one of these small villages? Sorry? Theft. Health, okay. No, not health, not the marriage of a daughter, not education, not, sorry? Liquor. Thank you for reminding me, no. Say that again. Dowry, no. Oh, let me put you out of your misery. No, I'm saying, what does he need financial assistance for? The answer is the untimely death of a relative, of a senior in their family. That is the one occasion he can't prepare for. That is one occasion where the ceremony demands that he spend a certain amount of money, feed a certain amount of people, use the funeral the expenditures, and that's where he takes the loan, and that's where he gets indebted, and that's where, to escape that particular embarrassment and humility of not having the ability to perform the function every year as is expected of the Indian tradition, that he decides to leave the village because he's made to feel inadequate. Lord Mikil had in 1735 had spoken in the British Parliament and said the only way to rule India is to make the men there feel inadequate. He said, and truly so, that unless he feels that what he has is lesser than what others have, you will not be able to rule him. And within a very short period, they proved themselves right. The rural India today is feeling inadequate. They're feeling like they're not even part of our country. And what happens with that is, they start then looking at opportunities in villages and saying better education, better health, better lifestyle, and no humility for not having performed the funeral properly. They decide to give up who they are and move to the cities. And who they are is what is more important for us to understand. Who they are actually the timekeepers and the bookkeepers of our deep-rooted traditional culture and stories. You should see how tradition and culture flourishes in a happy village in India. We don't have psychiatrists as a big fashion thing in India, and they still manage to maintain a great level of sanity. There's a great There's a great phrase from the poem If by Rudyard Kipling where it says, dream but not make dreams your master, think but not make thoughts your aim. Meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same. It's very easy to say it, but how do you treat those two imposters just the same? The answer lies in the tradition and the culture and the books and the epics that are so prominent and predominant in our country. The Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, the interpretation of that in the subcontinent, the Bible, the Guru Granth Sahib, the granny stories. And you know how to handle the diversities and the setbacks, and you're able to sit back, reassemble yourself, come back and fight with the same glory again. And when you don't give a villager that, you're depriving him, we're depriving ourselves of what I think is one of the most important survival tool in today's world, which is the culture and tradition. So I dream of a 2030 where rural India is as developed as the rest of the world, was as aspirational as the rest of India, and where the villager is provided with the same opportunities as it is available in the cities. And after a hard day's work, a villager is actually able to come back, sit down, have a drink, put his feet up, and start thinking about art and culture and poetry. That would be a dream that I have for 2030, a practical dream that I have for 2030. And the dreams that your parents and my parents had when we were in college, urban middle class, where everything revolved around the boy studying hard, getting into a technical college of a repute, and then getting into a reputed management college, and finally the green card. And if it was the girl, then it was a spouse with a green card. I dream of a 2030 where students the world over will dream of a blue card, will dream of having once actually come to India and study and imbibe the knowledge that we have as a nation. It used to be true. We were the first university in the world. Nalanda was a university where people came in from far and wide. So it's not a pipe dream. It's a practical dream that I have, and I think that's easily attainable. And finally, before I wind up, I think I dream of a 2030 where we have a meritocratic electoral base which selects its leaders and whose leaders believe that it is more important to serve with a missionary zeal to serve the nation rather than rule it. You know, there is another stanza from the same poem which says that if they have the ability to talk to the crowds, yet keep your virtue, walk with kings nor lose the common touch. If neither good friends nor foes can hurt you, yet all men count with you, but none too much. If only the politicians understood the gist of that line, we would have a progressive country by 2030 where we'll all be proud of not just the way the country is running, but also proud about our politicians. And finally, you know, I'm an actor. And the dream that I have for myself is that in 2030, I'm as relevant, I'm as handsome, hopefully, but if age was to catch up, then they probably would have mapped my face by then and used technology to make me look as young or old as the role desired me to look. And I'm still able to romance the pretty young things that will be part of the industry in 2030. Well, I see that's got many guys going. Yeah. And finally, as an actor, I'm used and prone to dialogues. I love to speak dialogues, and I recently found a line that blew me apart, and I thought was a phenomenal Hindi film dialogue, where this great gentleman has said that whatever I am today, and all the achievements that has been possible by me, and what will eventually also be possible by me in the near future, is all because of my angel mother. Do you know who said that? Do you know who said that? Shockingly, Abraham Lincoln. So I dream of a 2030 where every Indian says the exact same thing about his mother, and not just about his mother, but also about his motherland. And also, for the sake of posterity, about his mother-in-law. But hey, ladies and gentlemen, what do I know? I am an actor. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. And
Welcome to English Stories from English Speeches, a place to relax, listen, and be inspired by the lives of extraordinary people. Look closely at this moment. A man, weakened by a long and difficult battle with illness, is on a minimalist stage. The year is 2010. He holds up a thin, glowing slab of glass and aluminum, the first ever iPad. Despite his visible frailty, his eyes are bright with an unyielding passion, an intensity that has not dimmed. This is Steve Jobs, a name synonymous with innovation. But his story is far more than just the tale of a brilliant inventor or a wildly successful businessman. It is a powerful, profound lesson in what it means to be human. It's a story about failure, about rejection, about love, and about the incredible, often hidden strength we all have inside of us to turn our biggest obstacles into our greatest triumphs. This story is about the incredible life of Steve Jobs, but it is also about you and the extraordinary potential that lies dormant within your own story. As you listen today, you will not only find your English skills improving naturally and effortlessly, but you will also absorb valuable life wisdom, timeless insights that can help you navigate your own unique journey with greater courage and clarity. So, find a quiet space, relax, and let us begin this journey together. Our story begins not in a gleaming corporate headquarters or a high-tech lab, but with a quiet, deeply personal struggle. Stephen Paul Jobs was born in San Francisco in 1955 and was immediately placed for adoption. His biological mother, a young unmarried graduate student, had one firm, non-negotiable condition: that her son be adopted by college graduates. A lawyer and his wife were chosen, and they were ready. But at the last moment, when the baby was born, they changed their minds. They had decided they wanted a girl. The phone rang in the home of another couple on the waiting list, Paul and Clara Jobs. They were a humble, loving, working-class couple. Paul was a machinist and a brilliant mechanic. Clara was a bookkeeper. They had no college degrees, but they had an abundance of love and a deep desire for a child. When the birth mother discovered they were not college graduates, she was distraught. She refused to sign the final adoption papers. For weeks, a painful uncertainty hung over the infant's future. It was only after Paul and Clara made a solemn promise, a heartfelt vow that they would save every penny to ensure the boy would one day go to college, that she finally reluctantly agreed. From his very first days on Earth, Steve's life was defined by a strange paradox, a deep-seated feeling of being different, of being chosen and wanted, yet also of being abandoned and given away. This complex emotional foundation would become the fertile ground from which his intense personality, his relentless drive, and his profound desire to make a mark on the universe would grow. In life, we do not get to choose our starting point. We are all born into circumstances beyond our control. The ancient Stoic philosophers taught a powerful principle for navigating this reality, amor fati, a Latin phrase that means a love of one's fate. It doesn't mean being passive. It means actively embracing everything that happens in our lives, both the good and the bad, as necessary and meaningful. Steve's story reminds us that our beginnings, no matter how humble, complicated, or painful, do not define our destiny. They are merely the first chapter. What truly matters is the courage we show in writing the chapters that follow. Your own story, with all its unique twists and turns, is your source of power. Its value lies not in where it began, but in the choices you make today. True to their promise, Paul and Clara Jobs worked tirelessly, making sacrifices to save for their son's college education. Steve was exceptionally bright, but he was also rebellious and felt like he didn't quite fit in. He was a thinker, a dreamer, but he was directionless. When the time came, he enrolled in Reed College, a very expensive and prestigious liberal arts school. But after only one semester, just 6 months, he saw no value in it. He couldn't understand how memorizing historical dates or attending required classes he had no interest in would help him discover who he was or what his purpose in life was. An intense feeling of guilt washed over him as he watched his working-class parents spend their entire life savings on his tuition. So, he made a radical, terrifying decision. He dropped out, but he didn't leave the campus. For the next 18 months, he became a drop-in. He had no dorm room, so he slept on the floor in his friends' rooms. He scavenged for money by returning used Coke bottles for 5 cents each. And every Sunday night, he would walk 7 miles across town to the local Hare Krishna temple to get one good, hot, free meal for the week. He was, by all definitions, broke and homeless. But he was also, for the first time, truly free. Free from the burden of required classes, he could now explore whatever sparked his curiosity. One day, he saw a poster for a calligraphy class. He was captivated by the beauty of the lettering, the artistry of the typography. He decided to drop in. He learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about varying the space between different letter combinations, about what makes great typography a beautiful, historical, and artistic craft. At the time, it seemed completely useless, a whimsical decision with no hope of any practical application in his life. How often do we fear stepping off the clearly marked path? How often are we told to be practical, to follow the safe route? Steve's journey through this period of deep uncertainty shows us a profound truth. Sometimes, the most valuable moments of personal development happen not when we are following a plan, but when we are brave enough to be lost. The Stoics believed in the wisdom of focusing only on what you can control. Steve couldn't control his financial situation or his future, but he could control his curiosity. He could choose to learn for the pure joy of learning. That seemingly useless calligraphy class was a seed planted in the soil of his curiosity that would lie dormant for a decade before blossoming into something extraordinary. This teaches us a vital lesson. We cannot always connect the dots looking forward. We can only connect them looking back. So you must trust. Trust that your intuition, your curiosity, your passions are leading you somewhere important, even if you can't see the destination yet. After a transformative trip to India, seeking spiritual enlightenment, Steve returned to his parents' home in California with a new perspective and a shaved head. He reconnected with his brilliant high school friend, Stephen Wozniak, a quiet and gentle genius of electronics. Wozniak, or Woz, had a passion for engineering and had single-handedly designed a remarkable personal computer board. To Woz, it was a fun hobby, a clever design to show off to his friends at the local homebrew computer club. But when Steve Jobs saw it, he didn't just see a circuit board, he saw the future. He saw a tool that could empower individuals and change the way people work, create, and communicate. In 1976, inside the cluttered garage of his childhood home, surrounded by the smell of solder and the hum of electronics, Apple Computer was born. With almost no money, they sold a VW van and a prized calculator to fund their start. They began a company built on a simple yet revolutionary idea: to take the intimidating power of a computer and make it accessible and friendly for everyday people. This was the raw beginning of their journey into entrepreneurship, a journey that would not only make them famous, but would also help define the culture of Silicon Valley's success. They were young, full of passion, and completely unaware that they were standing at the epicenter of a technological revolution they were about to ignite. The Stoic philosophers, like Marcus Aurelius, remind us that our perception is our power. The universe is transformation. Our life is what our thoughts make it. Where one person sees a complicated piece of technology, another, with a different perception, sees a tool to change the world. Steve's particular genius was not just in technology itself, but in his vision. He possessed an innate understanding of the importance of the user experience long before it became a common term. He knew that for technology to be truly powerful, it had to be human. This teaches us that true leadership skills are not merely about managing people or projects. They're about holding a clear, compelling, and inspiring vision that lifts others to see what is possible. Your unique perspective on the world is your greatest asset. Cultivate it. Trust it. By the early 1980s, Apple had grown from a garage startup into a major corporation. But Steve was not satisfied. He was driven by a new, all-consuming obsession to create a computer that was not just good, but insanely great. This project was the Macintosh. He assembled a small, hand-picked team of brilliant engineers and designers, whom he called his pirates, and they raised a pirate flag over their building. He pushed his team to their absolute limits, demanding a level of artistry and perfection that was completely unheard of in the utilitarian world of product design. He was notoriously difficult, emotionally volatile, incredibly passionate, and absolutely uncompromising. He believed that a computer should be more than a tool. It should be a work of art, elegant, intuitive, and a joy to use. It was here, in the design of the Macintosh, that his seemingly random calligraphy class from his college days came roaring back into relevance. Steve insisted that the Macintosh have beautiful typography, multiple fonts, and proportionally spaced lettering, features that no computer had ever had. His engineers thought he was crazy, wasting precious memory and processing power on something so trivial. But Steve understood that beauty and detail mattered. He even obsessed over the parts of the computer that no one would ever see, demanding that the circuit boards inside be laid out beautifully. This relentless focus on beauty and simplicity is what made the Macintosh a revolution. It was the first mass-market computer that felt less like a cold, calculating machine and more like a friendly and empowering partner for creativity. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote that we should strive for virtue, not for popularity. He advised, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Steve's relentless, often maddening pursuit of his vision for the Macintosh made him unpopular with many. He was criticized for being too demanding, too harsh, a perfectionist. Yet, his commitment was not to being liked. It was to a higher standard of excellence. He was serving his vision. This is a powerful reminder that true, lasting business innovation often requires the courage to be misunderstood in the short term. In your own work, in your own life, focus on the quality and integrity of your contribution, not on the immediate applause you might receive. True fulfillment and lasting impact come from knowing you have given your absolute best to something you believe in. Then, in 1985, the unthinkable happened. The very company that Steve had co-founded, the company that was his life's work, turned against him. After a bitter power struggle with the CEO he himself had hired, John Sculley, the board of directors sided with Sculley. At the age of just 30, Steve Jobs was fired from Apple. It wasn't just a job loss, it was a public execution of his identity. He was devastated, humiliated. The very center of his creative life, the core of his being, had been ripped away from him in front of the entire world. He felt like a failure on a massive scale and even considered leaving Silicon Valley for good, feeling that he had let everyone down. He would later reflect on this dark period with stunning clarity. "I didn't see it then," he said. But it turned out that being fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. He was lost, adrift, but as we will see, this crushing defeat was not an ending. It was a painful but necessary, disguised blessing. This is perhaps the most powerful and practical Stoic lesson of all, encapsulated in the timeless words of the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Being fired was a monumental, soul-crushing obstacle for Steve, but he did not let it break him. He did not let bitterness consume him. Instead, he unconsciously used this failure as a doorway to reinvention. This event is a profound reminder for all of us that our most painful setbacks, our most devastating failures, can become our most powerful catalysts for growth and transformation. The obstacle you may be facing right now, in your career, your relationships, your personal goals, is not the end of your story. It is a redirection. It is a new beginning, waiting for you to see it. Freed from the immense pressures of running a massive, publicly traded corporation, Steve's boundless creativity was unleashed. He did not retreat. Instead, he channeled his energy into new ventures. He started a new computer company called Next. The Next computer was a technological masterpiece, a stunning black cube that was years ahead of its time. While it was not a commercial success, the powerful, object-oriented software developed for it would become incredibly important later in his story. At the same time, he took another huge risk. He purchased a small, struggling computer graphics division from filmmaker George Lucas for $10 million. That little company was named Pixar. Steve invested millions of his own money into Pixar year after year, keeping it alive with his belief in its potential to merge art and technology to tell stories in a new way. For years, Pixar bled money and struggled to find its footing, but Steve's belief in the team, led by visionaries like Ed Catmull and John Lasseter, never wavered. This small experimental studio would eventually go on to revolutionize the animation industry, creating a string of beloved, critically acclaimed films like Toy Story, Finding Nemo, and Up, and becoming a global powerhouse of storytelling. Starting again from scratch after such a public failure requires an immense amount of resilience. Steve's work with Next and Pixar demonstrates the incredible power of a long-term vision. He wasn't looking for a quick, easy win to soothe his ego. He was patiently investing in the future, playing the long game. This journey teaches us the critical importance of patience, persistence, and unwavering belief in any process of startup growth or personal mastery. Meaningful success rarely happens overnight. Like Steve, we must have the courage to plant seeds and nurture them with our attention and belief, even when the harvest seems uncertain and far away. Your emotional intelligence, your ability to handle setbacks, manage your own emotions, and stay focused on your long-term goals, is one of the most vital skills for a successful and fulfilling life. By 1996, the company that had ousted him, Apple, was in a death spiral. It was reportedly just 90 days away from bankruptcy. The company had lost its way, its product line was bloated and confusing, and most importantly, it had lost its innovative soul. In a stunning, dramatic turn of events, Apple, in a desperate move to acquire a modern operating system, decided to purchase Next, Steve's company, for over $400 million. And with that acquisition, Steve Jobs returned to the company that had once so coldly cast him out. He returned initially as an advisor, but soon the board, recognizing the chaos, asked him to step in as the interim CEO. He was walking back into a company on the verge of collapse, filled with demoralized employees and warring factions. But Steve returned with something he didn't have when he left, the wisdom born from failure. He was older, more focused, and his years in the wilderness had taught him invaluable lessons about mindset mastery, patience, and what truly matters in leadership. Steve could have returned to Apple filled with bitterness and a desire for revenge. It would have been a human response. Instead, he focused entirely on the present moment and the monumental task at hand. He practiced Amothati again, embracing the strange twist of fate that brought him back, and he used all of his past experiences, the triumphs and the failures, to serve the future of the company he loved. This is a powerful lesson in focusing on what you can control. We cannot change the past. We cannot undo past hurts or injustices, but we can always choose how we respond to the present moment. Your true power lies not in dwelling on what has happened, but in bringing the full force of your wisdom and your best self to the challenges and opportunities of today. One of Steve's first and most significant actions upon his return was not to launch a new product, but to launch a new advertising campaign. It was called Think Different. The iconic television ad featured no products at all. Instead, it showed black and white footage of history's great rebels and visionaries, people like Albert Einstein, Martin Luther King Jr., Bob Dylan, and Mahatma Gandhi. A narrator spoke, "Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do." This campaign wasn't about selling computers. It was about reminding the world, and more importantly, Apple's own employees, what the company stood for. It was a battle cry for passion, creativity, and the courage to challenge the status quo. Steve understood that before he could fix the products, he had to restore the company's soul. He took a metaphorical axe to the confusing product line, cutting dozens of models down to a simple 4-quadrant grid, a desktop and a portable for consumers, and a desktop and a portable for professionals. This radical simplification brought a clarity of purpose that was essential for the company's survival and became the foundation for its future business innovation. The great Stoic thinkers believed deeply in the importance of having a clear personal philosophy to guide your actions. The Think Different campaign was Apple's philosophy made public. It gave the company its why, its reason for being, beyond just making a profit. It teaches us a crucial lesson for any endeavor, whether in business, art, or personal development. Having a clear set of values, a guiding purpose, is paramount. You must know what you stand for. Your principles are your compass, giving you direction and stability in a world of constant change and confusion. In 1998, with the company's soul on the mend, Steve Jobs introduced the world to the iMac. It was unlike any computer ever seen before. It came in a bright, translucent Bondi blue shell, an all-in-one machine that looked more like a friendly creature from another planet than a piece of office equipment. It was fun, easy to use, and beautiful from every angle. The iMac was a massive runaway success, and it single-handedly saved Apple from the brink of collapse. It was the physical embodiment of the Think Different philosophy, a triumph of product design, and the first tangible proof that Apple was back. This marked the beginning of Apple's incredible renaissance, a period of unprecedented innovation that would see the launch of the iPod, the iTunes Store, the iPhone, and the iPad. Each product was guided by Steve's relentless, almost religious focus on three things: simplicity, beauty, and an unparalleled user experience. He believed technology should be so intuitive that it disappears, leaving only the user's experience. The iMac was far more than a successful product. It was a powerful statement. It was Steve's philosophy made tangible, a physical manifestation of his core beliefs. The Stoics teach that virtue is found not in words, but in action. It's not enough to have noble ideas or a strong philosophy. You must bring them to life through your work and your choices. The success of the iMac demonstrates the incredible power that is unleashed when your actions are in perfect alignment with your core principles. The lesson is clear. Don't just think differently, build differently, create differently, live differently. Let your actions be the evidence of your beliefs. Then, in 2007, Steve Jobs stood on a stage and prepared to introduce a product that would once again change everything. The anticipation in the room was electric. He masterfully built the suspense, telling the audience he was introducing three revolutionary products: a widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communications device. He repeated it: an iPod, a phone, an internet device. Then he revealed the truth. These are not three separate devices. This is one device, and we are calling it iPhone. The development of the iPhone was a monumental gamble, a top-secret project that required immense courage, faith, and secrecy. It was a project that could have easily failed and taken the resurgent Apple down with it. It completely redefined the world of mobile technology and, in a very real way, put the entire internet into our pockets. It was the ultimate culmination of Steve's entire life's work, the fusion of technology from Next, a deep appreciation for the liberal arts, and an obsessive focus on design and simplicity, all coming together in a device that was both incredibly powerful and beautifully simple to use. Bringing a product as revolutionary as the iPhone to market required immense fortitude. The technical, financial, and market risks were enormous. This reflects the essential Stoic virtue of courage, which is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act with purpose and integrity in spite of it. True progress, whether in technology, society, or in our own lives, requires us to take bold, calculated risks. It demands that we have the courage to pursue our vision with conviction, even when the outcome is uncertain and the critics are loud. Your own greatest growth lies just on the other side of your comfort zone, waiting for you to act with courage. In 2003, at the very height of Apple's incredible resurgence, Steve Jobs faced his greatest and most personal challenge. A routine abdominal scan revealed a rare, but treatable, form of pancreatic cancer. His doctors initially told him he likely had only 3 to 6 months to live. For Steve, the stark, undeniable reality of his own mortality became the most powerful source of clarity he had ever known. In a now famous commencement speech at Stanford University, he shared this profound insight. Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. He fought the disease for 8 long years, enduring surgery and treatment while continuing to lead Apple with unwavering passion and vision, launching world-changing products even as his health declined. The Stoics had a practice for this very purpose. They called it memento mori. Remember that you will die. They meditated on their mortality not to be morbid or sad, but to live with more urgency, gratitude, and purpose. Steve's diagnosis gave him this perspective in the most direct and powerful way possible. It stripped away all the non-essentials and focused his attention with a laser-like precision on what truly mattered, his love for his family and his passion for creating tools that he believed could enrich people's lives. This is a profound lesson for all of us. We do not need a terminal diagnosis to live more fully. We can choose, right now, today, to let go of the trivial fears and anxieties that hold us back and to focus on what gives our life true meaning and joy. In that same Stanford speech, Steve Jobs brought his life story full circle. He reflected on that seemingly random, impractical decision to drop out of college and take a calligraphy class. He explained that if he had never dropped in on that single course, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. And since Windows essentially copied the Mac, it's likely that no personal computer would have them. He couldn't connect those dots looking forward when he was a broke college dropout, but looking back, it was all perfectly, beautifully clear. You can't connect the dots looking forward, he famously said. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This approach has never let me down, and it has made all the difference in my life. This is the very essence of faith in the journey, a core element of lifelong resilience. The Stoics believed in accepting the natural flow of life, trusting that even events that seem random, negative, or pointless can have a purpose in the grander scheme of our lives. You may not understand why something difficult is happening to you right now. You may feel lost, uncertain, or that your efforts are going nowhere. But you must trust the process. Keep learning, keep growing, keep following your curiosity, and have faith that one day you will look back and see how all the disparate dots of your life connected in a way you never could have predicted. This trust is not passive. It is an active and powerful component of mindset mastery. Steve Jobs passed away in October 2011, but his legacy is not just in the glowing rectangles we carry in our pockets and purses. His true, enduring legacy is his story, a powerful human testament to the uncrushable power of the human spirit. His journey teaches us that failure is not final. It is merely a redirection. It teaches us that obstacles are not roadblocks. They are opportunities in disguise, waiting to show us a better way. It teaches us that the relentless pursuit of excellence requires courage, passion, and an unwavering commitment to our deepest held vision. And most poignantly, it teaches us that life is fragile and precious, and that the best way to honor the gift of our time is to live with purpose, to love deeply, and to approach each day with a sense of wonder and appreciation. The lessons from Steve Jobs' incredible life, illuminated by the timeless wisdom of Stoic philosophy, are not just for famous innovators or titans of industry. They are for you. You have your own unique journey, your own set of challenges, and your own incredible untapped potential waiting to be unlocked. So, as you go about your day, as you continue your journey of learning English and building your life, remember his story. Approach your goals with creativity and resilience. Lead with your values, not with fear. Embrace your own unique story, with all its successes, failures, and unexpected turns, with courage, curiosity, and an open heart. You are the author, the artist, the architect of your own story. Go and make it an insanely great one. Your story is still being written. Let Steve's life remind you, no path is wasted, no setback is final, and no dream is too bold. If you want to hear the words from the man himself, Watch Steve Jobs' unforgettable Stanford speech. It's right here on our channel, and it just might change the way you see your future. Stay hungry, stay foolish, and above all, stay true to your journey.
Join our global community of English learners, absolutely free. Download video transcripts, listen offline, start our beginner course, and join live classes with certified teachers. Access over 1,000 resources to improve your English faster. Everything's in one place, community.englishspeeches.ca. Let's speak English together.
et nihil est